Hi, everybody. We're going to be joined by Katurah Bryant shortly. And Katurah is the recent author of a book entitled The ZOLA Experience, ZOLA. It's a journey of um, recovery from loss. And Katurah is going to talk about that, about her particular journey. And the book, here it is really a life lesson. It's something that can be applied on a daily basis. It's an easy read, but it's also a read of great depth. And so it enables you to kind of experience life in all of its dimensions, but also there are practical exercises, practical games even, life games, but life in terms of life and death games that people can play, your family, with your friends, with your people at work, to improve. In this day of 2020, and in some ways we could be having this discussion 15, 20 years ago, 15 centuries ago, or 2,000 or 4,000 years ago, in terms of meditation and holistic health and spirituality and higher consciousness, and just believing in what either your 8 commandments, 10 commandments, or even if the book of Mott, which has over 40 commandments. So we know to be human can be a challenge. To be kind can be a challenge. And Katurah, for better or for worse, has enabled us with her book, The ZOLA Experience, ZOLA, to give you some steps, to help you to order your steps in a way that's friendly, easy to understand, but then to apply it, not just in a cognitive sense, but in an emotional sense, is the challenge. But she makes it fun. So she has a lot of...
It's 12 o'clock.
A lot of tips, and I think Katurah has now joined us. Katurah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes.
Good. We are recording as we speak. I think I've figured out the problem we had yesterday, and in a strange way, but perhaps in a real way, I feel a little better. I would have felt better by doing the conversation yesterday, but I'm a little more anchored this morning as well. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of to do this now. Let's spend like 29 minutes or so, and let's spend about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so, just to tease people. And I love the fact that you have the ZOLA book in your background there, and I prefaced it a little bit before you came on. And you know, Katurah, for folks that don't know, you have a lot of letters beside your name. You have Katurah A. Bryant, which I understand. LMFT stands for?
Licensed Marriage Family Therapist.
Licensed Marriage Family Therapist. And on some of the literature that I was reading about you, you have some more acronyms. BSN, RN?
Right, I'm a bachelor's degree in nursing.
Okay, RN for registered nursing. Yes. And the beat goes on. LADC?
Well, licensed alcohol and addictions counselor.
And I mention that because there's so many, I think you agree, Katurah, in some ways when I say this desire to improve the human condition has been capitalized, and people are trying to make money off of it like crazy. I mean, every time I turn around and I see people that are saying that they're healers, but I want people to kind of know that we all need healing, but it's good to kind of consider who you're seeking healing from.
True.
You know, and check that person out. And even a person with your same credentials might not be best for them. So just there are a lot of people around, but so authenticity and transparency is really key. And that's why I was so glad we could do this 20, 30-minute discussion to talk about your book. And I'm going to affirm it right now. Your first of many books, your first of many, the Pantheon. And just before we jump in, for me, it's a book, yes, but it's also a workbook. It's also a life book. It's also a notebook. You can put any words before the word book, but it's a methodology in writing that people can use, and it's very user friendly. Let's jump in. You've been involved with this area and this belief system that we can improve ourselves for several decades. I won't age you totally, but and we know that sometimes life is an infinite experience. But you've been committed to this work even before you published your book.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I started off as a candy striper back in high school, but I come from a family of healers. My great grandmother, she was really an herbologist.
Mm-hmm.
And family folklore is that I had a severe case of pneumonia when I was like 18 months old, and they said that that I was not going to survive it. And so my great grandmother said, bring her home, bring her to me. So they said that she went out in the yard and she picked her herbs, and then she commenced to closing down the room with just she and I, and boil pots of boiling water and lots of steam. And here I am. So my first recollection of just the healing things that my grandmother would do, my great grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
we never had grass in the yard. We only had herbs on the periphery of the yard. And whenever she would just go out and pick. My great grandfather, he would sweep the dirt, which I then came to understand that's like a West African tradition of sweeping patterns in the dirt. My grandmother, she was a beautician, and she was a very celebrated beautician in Nashville. She ran this beauty shop called Beautyland Beauty Shop. She had all kinds of awards, but her thing was healing through hair. She would
Oh.
do people's hair. A lot of times she would do it for free just to improve the self-esteem of someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her thing. She had so many other talents that she was a giver and that she had the healing hands like that. I come from a family of nurses and physicians, and I think I might be the first marriage and family therapist. But
Okay.
my mother was a nurse. My aunts, I come from a long family tradition of that, and everybody kind of combined that with other things. And so that's just really kind of been a part of me, and the whole giving has been a part of me, I think, for a long time. My grandmother and great grandmother took people in. I mean, it would be nothing for us to sit at the dinner table, and, and I was young. I was like 7 by the time I left them. But when I was young, it would be like, well, there's somebody new at the dinner table, and it's just eat. They're hungry. So they, just taking in people. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really been a part of me to uplift the human spirit. And I've always, even in my nursing practice, I've always wanted to try to see beyond the actual presenting problem.
Mm-hmm.
That there's something else that was going on with the person. I was trying to be a med surg nurse, that nurse that takes care of people after pre and post surgery and coming in with all kind of illnesses. But my whole thing was like, I wanted to know more about them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was proficient, but that wasn't really where my passion was until I truly delved into psychiatry. And that was like, okay, I found my nirvana.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. For some,
Family therapy was just the natural next step for me.
normally I'll do this like 20 or 30 minutes after the discussion, but for someone that's even just listened to us to you in particular for the last 6 or 7 minutes, if they want to purchase this, where do they go? How do they find it?
They will go to Amazon.com and go to Amazon Books, and it's under the ZOLA Experience, A Journey of Recovery from Loss. Or you can punch in my name, and that's what the cover will look like.
And And so tell us about ZOLA. I mean, when an author chooses a title or their imprint, how they want to be known, that's it's a super conscious decision. It's a branding decision. It's a marketing decision. ZOLA. Unpack that a little bit for us.
um, well, you know, when I was developing the curriculum for for the program, you know, for this healing program, and I try to, you know, do things that have connection.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was contracted to work with the Howard K. Hill Funeral Services
Mm-hmm.
to come up with. I presented this idea to Mr. Hill, and he thought it was fascinating, and he was like, "Okay," you know. So we, you know, he provided the community, and I provided the curriculum and the clinicians.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zola means to love. And when you really understand moving through a loss, it really is an act of love for self first, and then an act of love for the person, or as I call it, the love object that
Mm-hmm.
you are emotionally holding on to. And when I first, you know, it was really just about loss of human beings
Indeed.
that were, you know, as a result of a funeral, whatever. And but then, you know, I started using it, the modules. I started using those sessions in my private practice, because I was doing a private practice at that time, and people were coming to me for loss of jobs, loss of body image, loss of relationships, and we would go through those things, and it was quite effective. So I, you know, was able to collect a lot of data that said that the the intervention um, was very successful.
Hmm.
So that's how it really. So the ZOLA acronym, that, you know, the ZOLA itself means to love, and then, you know, I did this acronym.
Well, tease us a little bit. I love acronyms. I mean, you have a few acronyms behind your name.
Yes. So I was, you know, I pray over things. I ask for divine intervention, call on the ancestors, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I it's the Zen peacefulness when one is open to love again.
Repeat that again.
The Zen peacefulness when one is open to love again.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
And
ZOLA.
go ahead.
So that's the acronym ZOLA. And that's really what is the essence of it, is what it means. Like, once you come to a space where you can let go
Mm-hmm.
and move forward in your life, there is a sense of peacefulness about it. And it's like it makes it, it's like an okay. You're like, okay, I can do this. Um, and then you have to be open. That's what happens when you're able to let go of something, right? Then you are open to receive what's next. But
The,
if you're like this, then you can't. You gotta
mm-hmm.
let it go.
Got to let your hair down, so to speak.
Yes.
I would take my hat off and let more of my hair down, but I don't want to scare you at the moment. But so stay tuned for next time.
Uh-huh.
Have a fascinating hair day. In your introduction, you end by saying that love is the medicine that accelerates the process of healing, and that's a quote from M. Ruiz, The Mastery of Love. Love is the medicine that accelerates the process of learning. Let's jump into session one, because when I say it's a book, a workbook, a notebook, a life book, you can read it individually, but it really when you pick it up, it inspires you to share it. And so it's the words you articulated, people have heard 10,000 million times, but you really kind of breathe life, to use that expression, into those words. If we can, let's tease people go to session one and kind of walk through just a little bit of how this is something practical. And in the intro, before you came on, Katurah, I was mentioning that this is something you can do for fun. You can do it it can be a game. It can be a healing session. You can call it what you want, but it's something that you can interact with people and commune with, and just have all those joys of the experience, be it a somber experience or an ecstatic experience.
Mm-hmm. So the introduction piece is really to express that, I talked a lot about the logo and
Mhm.
why I chose the butterfly. And, for me, the transition of the butterfly from a larvae to a caterpillar to the actual going through that whole chrysalis experience. And I don't think people really realize that that caterpillar just kind of dissolves itself other than specific genetic things that the creator, you know, made possible. And then all of a sudden, you develop into the genetics to develop into this beautiful butterfly. And they come in different colors and sizes and shapes, but their process is basically the same. And so I look at the metamorphosis of people changing.
Mhm.
We oftentimes have to give all of that old stuff up, give all of those old messages up. And so, but the other piece being is that we can, the power of healing and life lessons that you can do this because you've done it in the past.
Mhm.
This may be this particular situation that just seems, oh my goodness, devastating, but you've done this in the past. So when we do the first session, we do this thing that they do. It's a sociotherapy kind of exercise. It's called a locogram. And basically, it's like a timeline that people step into. And
Mhm.
gives the when you're doing it in a group session or even in a discussion session or even an individual, you think about when was the first time that you experienced a major loss in your life,
Mm.
and then you mark those times, okay, for everybody that's participating. And there are people that have lost somebody like way in their past, and then there's somebody that may have lost somebody like last month.
Mhm.
But there's such richness in the gathering that the person that maybe had lost, is recovering from the loss last year can give the person that is recovering from the loss this month, they can give them insight and they can give them hope and they can give them guidance and say, this is what worked for me. It might not work for you, but this
It's
is what worked.
12:15.
Go to page 21 and kind of just reiterate some of those practical steps, because I want people to see that
Oh,
you may not know who Deepak Chopra is, you may not know who Michael on the West Coast is, you may not know who Carl Jung is or Freud, and it's not important. You can know who Katurah is,
right.
and and what I like is your workbook is not a recapitulation per se, but it has a unique flavor to it. So we know that wisdom, as you mentioned when you first started, is passed on from generation to generation. But I like how, particularly now at this stage in 2020, uh, people are so frazzled and so many channels and distraction and depressed, to use that expression, to have something that's easy, user friendly to use, that still is so rich in its methodology. So chat about just on page 21, just those, when the first recollect, just what you've asked people to kind of journal
Well,
and talk about.
so there are a number of questions that are posed by the facilitators or the group that are posed to the group. It's like, when was your first recollection of a lost love object that was significant in your life? And that causes you to reflect. And then, I know for myself, I began to reflect not only, my great grandmother, my great grandfather, and those other people that were important to me. Okay. So I began to say, okay, I've been on this journey for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the most recent recollection of a lost love object that was significant in your life? Okay, so then you reflect on something that happened very recently. And I think for me, I would say it was my brother, who I experienced a sudden loss with him. It'll be 2 years, and 2 years next week, as a matter of fact. And then from the first to the most recent recollection, you have a conversation, or either you journal it yourself with the conversation you have with yourself. That's what journaling is about. Um, and you put yourself on different timelines and wherever you feel that you belong at this particular moment. And it should be noted that individuals can move between more than one position because you've had more than one walk. And then you're asked who in the group is experiencing daily challenges
Mm.
with their recovery. And then those that aren't experiencing on a daily basis, somebody like myself would be in the group, and I would say, well, the anniversary of my brother's death is coming up. And so now I'm really, really thinking a lot more about it.
Mm.
And so these are the things, like they could ask me, well, how did you get past the daily thoughts
Right.
and feelings? And then I can share that. Things that work for me. And the group is so rich with insight and advice and support. So that's part of the experience.
Share a little bit, Katurah. Are you training people, or are you having workshops? If someone wants to kind of learn how to be more of a facilitator or a family, I'm suggesting everybody that I speak to these days, particularly in 2020, I'm suggesting to them that you better find some sort of anchor or anchors, regardless of how stable you think you might be. I know I particularly am, I wouldn't say freaking out, but it's a challenge to.
Well, it is. We're in a very a situation that's quite daunting.
Mm-hmm.
We're in not only catastrophic loss, but there's nobody that has not been impacted by just the pandemic, quote unquote, pandemic alone. In addition to the national attrition that happens, as the universe, as God takes its course. So my primary goal is to train providers,
Okay.
and I wrote the curriculum so that somebody, let's say that runs a group for their church.
Yes.
Or they are or a pastoral counselor, or they're the outreach worker that runs groups at an agency. You would be able to do this, facilitate this. I've worked with, all ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes my greatest co-facilitator was my outreach worker.
Mm-hmm.
They were just so intuitive and so on point.
Not someone with a PhD necessarily.
Not someone with a PhD necessarily. That does not constitute that they could actually facilitate a group setting in this country. And so I wrote it so that all providers can benefit from it. And I really wanted to expand the capacity of being able to begin to heal communities, to have this kind of support that you can begin to heal communities. So I do offer training, and my ultimate goal is to have trainers of trainers.
Perfect.
So that, because I'm only one person, Spirit woke me up in April and said, it's time for you to do ZOLA, and I want you to do it differently.
No. You were asleep all of your 16 years prior to that?
Almost. No, but I get these inspirations, early in the morning. It seems like
early in the morning.
Yes, 5 o'clock, when I wake up, it's like
in the morning time.
Yes. And so it was, because me alone, like they say, if you journey by yourself, you're just journeying by yourself. But if you journey with other people, you impact so many more people. So it is my desire to increase the capacity of healers, of people that can do the ZOLA experience globally, to offer it to the world. Yes.
And we're talking about this.
Yes.
And how can people find it, obtain it, purchase it?
You can go on Amazon to purchase the book. You can contact me at Katurah at thezolaexperience.com if you're interested in the training aspect. That information is in the book as well.
Excellent. Let's go to session 2. Let's tease people a little bit with session 2, because I want people to see the continuity, and you can go back and forth and you can see on session 1 for the next year.
Yeah.
You can see, so it's not that you have to finish the book, so to speak. There's no pressure, but each session, and I love the way that you use sessions rather than chapters. It could be a life experience, a life-changing experience, just to indulge in each of those particular episodes.
So session 2, and they build upon each other, or you can take them separately. and I see it as like, 12 step. Like,
Okay.
people go through the 12 steps and they go through the 12 steps, and people can go through the ZOLA experience more than one time and with a different focus. Um,
Good.
and you will continue to get benefit. And that was the whole concept. So your second session is around your spiritual walk. And I
Mm-hmm.
say spiritual walk as opposed to religion or
Mm-hmm.
anything else, because you define that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question posed to you is for you to write about is, how has your spiritual walk impacted your recovery from loss?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Hit the pause button just because I want you to elaborate, and I don't want to get you sidetracked. But for someone that's an atheist or an agnostic or even despises the word spiritual, it just feels you need to just get up, shave, whatever, and then you die. And people sometimes have minimalistic philosophies. Address how, to me, this book is appropriate for someone that even might doubt your faith claim. But say a few words about someone that, because I'm sure you want to, if you're an agnostic or an atheist, this still I think might have what would you say to them, him or her, to
I would just say, you define your spiritual walk. Whether your
uh-huh,
spiritual walk is, I don't believe in anything other than myself.
uh-huh,
How has that helped you? How has that impacted
good.
your recovery,
So,
your
say that again or elaborate on that again. Because
well,
you're right,
because
some people feel that they are self-sufficient. Absolutely.
right, and I've worked in the field long enough that your sense of spirituality and your sense of worth around your deserving things that are good for yourself. Like I work with people that were very, very depleted.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of even talking about, some of them struggled with even going to 12 step because there's one place in there that says, God, they mentioned God. And I try to tell them, well, just take that. You can say a rock, you can say whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get you to understand, what is it that you need in order for you to be able to move forward with your life? What is it, whatever it is, if you need to do mirror work and stand in front of that mirror and you say, I am the end all be all to my existence, then that's what you do. If that's going to help you. So my definite, I use the term spiritual um, just as broad of a term that I could come up with where people were relatable. But that can be defined with whatever it is that you adhere to. So if you adhere to an agnostic type of a philosophy, I could perhaps use transpose the term spiritual walk to philosophical walk.
Oh,
um, Whatever that terminology is for you. And as a facilitator, if someone were to say what you said to me, well, I don't have a spiritual walk. And I said, well, whatever your philosophy is around your existence,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but that's something that, being a trained facilitator, I would know to do that, like
Indeed.
quickly.
Indeed. And just to flip it for a second, and we'll get back to session two. What about someone that feels that you mentioned someone that might be depleted or suffering challenges. There are some people whose egos are so big, they feel they have it all. They have all the chips and coke that they need, and they don't need any help at all. What would you say to that person?
You sure you're in the right space? Like, how can I help you? If you are the end all be all and you got it all together, then how did you end up in in this session? What
Mm-hmm.
brought you there? And then we would work from there. If they would, whatever it is that their response would be, then I would work with them on their response. But it's real clear that that this is a journey of recovery from a loss,
Mm.
whatever it is. But if you feel like you've recovered already and that that you can move on with your life, then namaste.
All right. Let's jump. Let's go and appreciate your allowing me to kind of take you a little bit off the path. But session two, tease us a little bit with session two, some of the tips and procedures there that you're doing.
Oh, well, primarily, we will talk about people's definition of spirituality or their philosophy around that whole thing. there's a nice group discussion that's around it. And we have people to journal about it. We want you to write about it. You know, if you have writing challenges, then you can tape it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. However, there's something, if you have the ability to write, even if it's bullets, because most people become really intimidated by the thought of journaling. So when we would bring journals as part of the session. I'd have a whole table full of journals, all different sizes, different shapes. Some were real small, some were big. And it really was the person for me, it spoke to somewhat their personality that
Mm-hmm.
they would choose a little tiny journal, okay, like this. And then there are these people that would want the big one.
Mm-hmm.
So it just really, you know, there's a chemical thing that happens when you put pen to paper,
Mm-hmm.
even very differently than typing on a computer or verbally recording something. But, you know, if it at all possible, put that pen to paper and see what happens, see what comes out.
Let's, and I may want to jump to one or two more, and again, we're closing in on the time, and I really appreciate it. When we spoke yesterday, you're just in the first or second inning of your day. I mean, you have other places to go and things to do and people to meet, so I appreciate you squeezing me in. Talk a little bit. Let's review about the love impulse, the love energy, because we were chatting briefly yesterday. If some people would suggest that, I mean, we hear that God is love and love is the most powerful force. But for folks that get into the analysis of where civilization has been for the last 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 years, some would say that love has failed, or that it might be a powerful influence, but there might be even a more powerful influence that has caused us to be in this such state of calamity and global crisis. Just wanted to give you a chance to kind of affirm why you think love is still something, I won't use the term ammunition, but as a power that still can be proven in terms of its effectiveness.
Right, right. I think that it is the highest vibration that we can walk in and that we can give to another person. It transcends space, time, and there
It's
are
12:30.
influences around us, you know. But if you continue to walk with this energy, it does change things. Even if you walk consciously and say as you're walking down the street, you know, I love you, my brother. I love you, my sister. You may not may not articulate it out loud, but if you walk in that energy, in that God conscious, what I call that God consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
it does make a difference. There is a lot of calamity. You know, people like, well, you know, if there's a God, why are we having this pandemic? And, you know, there's reason for everything. You know, when we look at everything that was going on prior to March for the U.S. at any rate, people were stressed. People were coming to therapy because, you know, they're trying to manage kids that have a gazillion activities. They're trying to do a full-time job, a part-time job, or this or that. And that's just one little piece that we were on this treadmill and people thought that it was okay. And then there were those of us whose voice was saying, self-care, you gotta stop. So I do ear acupuncture. I train people to do ear acupuncture with the NADA protocol. That was one of those things. Just sit and be still. Deep breathing, another one of those interventions. Sit, be still. Tapping, all kinds of things have come to give people permission to be still.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give yourself permission to be still. That speaks volumes because, you know, the minute they sit still, it's like, okay, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. You get all these shoulds in your head. But your body has to relax at some point in time. Okay, and then when we talk about globally, they're, you know, messing up our food chain, trying to make a 10-pound tomato, so they put all these pesticides and all this other crap in our food. It was like, you know, the universe was like, stop. And the first thing that I read after the global, basically like almost this global shutdown, was that people that lived in Nepal could actually see the Himalayan mountains for the first time
Yes.
in decades, in decades. And so when you think about that, it's like, energy is neither created nor destroyed. So it just continues to be cyclical. And sometimes it gets skewed, but it will always come to a balance. Everything will come to a balance. And we're approaching a balance, even though out of this crisis will come a balance. And we're in a crisis in this country, but we will come to a balance. That's just the way that the pendulum swings. It can go to the zenith and then it can come to the nadir. But at some point in time, there is a balance. Okay? There is a balance. And we will come to the balance. And that's that love energy. The love energy brings us to the balance. That we have to look at each other. You look at people, it's like, you're going to stop talking to me because what? I stepped on your sneakers, really? We really had to get in touch with what is important. What is truly important. And what's truly important is our human connection.
Mm-hmm.
People were struggling with quote unquote quarantine. At one point in time, they were saying that, we were, everybody was on their phone, their tablets. We were in isolation, in public isolation. And then when it was, you had to be in physical isolation, people struggled with it. And you say, well, why? If you were like this at the dinner table, but we have to have human contact. If you don't give human contact to a baby, the baby will literally die.
Mm.
You can't just feed the baby and put the baby in a bassinet. The baby will not thrive. And it's a clinical condition called failure to thrive. And there's certain things that the baby will look like that we will know that baby isn't getting enough human contact. And the first thing they say when the baby is born, give it skin to skin. Give it skin to skin. We are human. We need human beings. We need human contact. Otherwise, we won't survive. And that's that love energy. That's the energy from your heart chakra.
Last words about the ZOLA experience, and just not that you need to repeat just what you've said, but it's just so important. Just kind of last words and how people can kind of join you on this journey. And just want to thank you for you're kind of like an architect in a way, and a map builder where people can follow along and kind of build their own harmony and network of peacemakers. But last word in terms of the ZOLA experience, how you can secure it, obtain it, use it, and how people can contact you.
Yes, please go to Amazon.com and look for the ZOLA Experience, and it should come up, and it'll have the beautiful yellow sunshine, healing radiance behind the beautiful black and white butterfly. Somebody asked me why I chose a black and white butterfly. I said, because after you've gone through the ZOLA experience, God willing, you will add color to your own life. And so there's contact information is in there.
Okay.
You can always contact me through Tom, or you can contact me through Katurah at thezolaexperience.com, or hit me on my Facebook page.
Excellent. And I'm going to tease with my last word, Katurah, and thank you, that I need my ear acupuncture. Are you, in spite of the social distancing, are you still doing the ear acupuncture?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll reach
certain situations I am.
Well, I am definitely a certain, hopefully I fall into that category of a certain situation. So, reach out to you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I know you're busy today, and I really appreciate your squeezing us in and sharing the love.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I am truly grateful, and I thank you. And you've always been an advocate, and I truly, truly appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure. Julia made me do it.
I love her too.
Good to have love behind you.
That's right. That's right.
Have a great day, dear.
Thank you. You as well.
Take care.